Good evening, everyone. I call the June 17th, 2026 public information meeting to order at 7 p.m. Are there any disclosures of conflict of interest? Seeing none. The purpose of this public meeting is to inform and provide the public with the opportunity to ask questions or to express views with respect to a development proposal. Councilors are here to observe and listen to your comments. However, they will not make any decisions this evening. Township requests you please notify staff by email at planning@puslinch.ca or by phone at 519-763-1226, extension 4. If you wish to be on record and would like to be notified of future hearings and decisions regarding this application. With respect to application D14-CUL, the county requests you please notify by email staff at landdivisioninfo@wellington.ca. If you wish to be on record regarding the official plan amendment application, and would like to be notified of future hearing and decisions regarding this application. Please note the meeting is video and audio recorded, and all electronic meetings are uploaded to the municipality's YouTube page. By attending this meeting in person or by registering to participate in the meeting by electronic means, you are consenting to have your likeness and comments recorded and posted on YouTube. Please note, in accordance with amendments to the Planning Act through Bill 185, the following parties may appeal this application to the Ontario Land Tribunal for a hearing: the applicant, specified person, a public body, the registered owner of the property to which the bylaw would apply, and the minister. Please note that if a specified person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or provide written submissions to the township before a decision is made, they are not entitled to appeal the township's decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal. In addition, they may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. You may wish to contact township staff for further information regarding the appeal process. The format of the public meeting is as follows. The applicant or agent will present the purpose and details of the application and any further relevant information. Township's planning consultant will briefly present their information report. Following this, the public can obtain clarification, ask questions, and express their views on the proposal. Members of the public are permitted 10 minutes each to ask questions and express their views. This time limit is imposed to provide each member of the public an opportunity to speak. Council will then have an opportunity to ask clarification questions. The application of Township's planning consultant will attempt to answer questions or respond to concerns this evening. This is not possible. The applicant and or staff will follow up and obtain this information. Responses will be provided when this matter is brought forward and evaluated by council at a later date. This public meeting involves an application by Collaborative Structures Limited, zoning bylaw application D14-COL, property location municipally known as 683 Ellis Road, Township of Puslinch. The purpose and effect of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to amend the Township of Puslinch new comprehensive zoning bylaw 23-2018 as amended to rezone the lands from agricultural zone A and special provisions agricultural A-77 to site-specific agricultural to apply to the entire merged parcel and update the provisions to address the existing / proposed site conditions. Would the owner or applicant make their presentation, please?
Hi, Mr. Mayor.
You can pull back closer if you want to stand, or move, might be easier to move. Either bit.
My name is Chris Kurowski, and I'm a land use planner working on behalf of Collaborative Structures. So as you rightly mentioned, the purpose of tonight's meeting is to talk about a zone change application on the smaller piece of property that's shown on the screen as lands to be severed. And that parcel was severed off along the front onto Ellis Road, which contains a residential dwelling. and it will be merged with the property to the right, which is the historical location for collaborative structures. The severance was approved by the Land Division Committee, County Land Division Committee in 2024. And one of the conditions of that approval was that a zoning bylaw amendment be obtained, basically to consolidate the zoning, as it turns out. And that all makes good sense. Just a little about CSL. It's been in operation for approximately 25 years. They employ about 75 people. And over the past couple of decades, they've won over 50 awards for design, environmental awareness, innovation, health, safety, construction excellence. This type of company, from a planning perspective, contributes to the economic base of the municipality and also contributes to the notion of nurturing a complete community by way of employment opportunity. Well, it's a vibrant, growing operation. If you've ever seen the building, and I expect most of you have, from the street, it's very understated, wooden structure, quite attractive. You can almost mistake it for a residence. The lot's meticulously landscaped, and this look will not be altered in any way by a zone change and the related site plan approval that is sort of going on concurrently. In terms of surrounding uses, the existing house to the west, farm parcel, small farm parcel. To the east, some other residences that are set back quite a distance from the road. And the perimeter of the now what will become the L-shaped property, which will contain collaborative structures, is pretty well covered on the perimeter by existing landscaping, mature trees, very difficult to see into the site from any side view. And looking back into the site, the rear portion of the property, which is more the utility area where storage and construction structures are located, is screened by a fence that's gated and not really noticeable from the street. To the rear, the property backs onto en route gas station. Big parking lot back there, and I think the site actually backs onto more where the trucks park, and there's also what appears to be a utility area, probably a storm pond at that part of the site. So the purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment is really to allow relatively minor and logical incremental changes to occur to the zoning regulations that will apply to the property. You mentioned the A77 zone, which is a specialized zone tailored for the original CSL parcel, and that zoning and any amendments that are made through this process will apply to that whole L-shaped property. These changes to the zoning bylaw amendment will allow the continued growth operation of CSL in a manner that imposes no negative impacts on any surrounding properties, and in a manner which is well screened and well thought out on the site. So the success of CSL obviously reflects well on the owners, but it also reflects well on the township in terms of tax base, employment, general economic development. Translated into planning terms, this is the type of use that, generally speaking, should be encouraged and facilitated. We've already had one meeting with your township planning consultant to talk about some of the zoning regulations And Jeremy, if he's speaking to, I may get into some of those, but the existing A77 zoning will cover off many of the regulations that are required to control the site from the zoning perspective. Some additional special regs will be required to increase things like general building coverage. Currently, for example, the A77 zone permits a maximum of 10% building coverage. And with what's being proposed, a new accessory structure, storage building is being proposed. It's not an imminent construction project, but adding that to what's there already will bump up in the future, if it's ever built, will bump up the coverage. And we're trying to tailor the zoning bylaw to allow to deal with the current conditions as well as enable that future building to be constructed. There are a number of CCANs on the site now, and more than are permitted by the zoning bylaw. According to one way the regulation is written, there's two metrics. One is the total square footage or total size, footprint size of all the CCANs, which is not being exceeded. And the other metric is, I think, 1 can per 0.4 hectares of lot area. That would be the one that we would have to tweak in the special regs. Some other minor tweaks to things like how the screening of the property can be implemented. Right now, it speaks to a planting strip separating the rear portion behind the house. Speaks to a planting strip. We'd like to add the word wood fence to that. There's an existing wood fence now, and that can be enhanced if required. So when this went to the Land Division Committee, it was approved through what is called an expedited approval by the Land Division Committee. Expedited approval means that there were really no concerns expressed, that the information that was provided by, I think, the county planner at the time, who may have been also the township's planning consultant at the time, was that application for the severance conformed to the official plan, conformed to the provincial policy statement, and represented good planning.
I just want to interject there. I don't want to interject. When planning committee dealt with this application, they would have not looked at it for zoning compliance, any of those components. We would have looked at the compliance for the severance, for the consent, would be my understanding. I don't believe that we considered the use, and we weren't giving our general approval of the ZBA or the end use for that consent. There was a condition on there. So just your statement that the committee had no concerns about the application of the consent. I just didn't want to mislead the public that the county planning committee gave a blessing to a ZBA. That wasn't the case. We looked at the consent.
Point taken, Mr. Mayor. I agree that they weren't commenting on the zoning bylaw, but they did say that it did conform to the official plan at that time.
Or consent.
Well, without specifying. Yeah, so so we're here today to talk about the zoning bylaw amendment application and the site plan that is being proposed. On the screen, I'll just have a few comments on that. This isn't the final version. This is I think first submission to the township. About over 50% of the site would be described as landscape open space. The parcel itself is, conducive to this use in this location by virtue of the fact that it's a deeper property, but the more utilitarian component of it is toward the rear, where it's visually screened. I already mentioned that from the street, there will really be no changes that are apparent. The proposed changes suggested in the site plan, which include getting rid of a number of the secants. I think there's a total of about 18 now, and at least half of those are proposed to go. And that's shown on the site plan that's been submitted. The proposed changes of the zoning and what's suggested by the site plan will not result in any impacts on adjacent lands. And I think that all of the proposed regulations for the new specialized zoning that will apply to the property can be described as incremental, reasonable, and will contribute to the continued efficient functioning of this property and of this successful operation.
Thank you very much. I'll pass the microphone down to Jeremy.
Good evening to member of council and member of the public. My name is Jeremy Train from MPG Planning Solution. We are the township planning consultant. We're here today for the public meeting for the zoning bylaw amendment application at 6681, 6683 Ellis Road. As part of my presentation today, I'll walk through the development process. I'll provide an overview of the locations and the relevant policies framework for the applications. I'll summarize the proposal, the requested zoning bylaw amendment. We also present the comments that the township and the county and ex-accidental agency have provided to date before explaining next step for the applications and lastly, question and comments. In terms of the development process, the zoning bylaw amendment application was submitted to the township, which is currently under review. Today, we are at the public meeting to provide an overview of the application to the public and council. A future recommendation report will be presented to council. In terms of the location, the subject lands contain of the rear portion of 6681 Ellis Road and the entirety of 6683 Ellis Road. Both are located on the south side of Ellis Road to the north of Highway 401. In terms of policy framework, the subject lands are designated secondary agricultural in the County of Wellington official plan. The rear portion of 6681 Ellis Road is currently zoned agricultural, and 6683 Ellis Road is currently zoned agricultural site specific number 77. An overview of the proposal, as Chris has mentioned, the zoning bylaw amendment application is required to fulfill conditions of consent application B61-24. The purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment application is to update the site-specific provisions of number 77 to incorporate the additional lands, as well as to permit new site-specific provisions. In terms of the requested zoning bylaw amendment, the applicant had requested to rezone the entire subject lands from, rezone the entire subject lands to an agricultural site-specific zone to permit the following: a maximum of 10 shipping containers, a maximum lot coverage of 15%, a minimum landscape open space of 20%, landscape buffer to be 3 meters when abutting residential and agricultural uses, updating the minimum lot area regulation to reflect the additional lands, outdoor storage to be screened by planting strip and or fences. And other regulations from special provision 727 are proposed to be carried over. I'll summarize the comments that have been received to date for the application. PDAC provided the following comments for the application. The proposal needs to ensure that this is a small-scale commercial operation in accordance with the county's official plan. Encourage council to consider that landscape area to be retained at 25% and lot coverage to be increased to 15%. Suggest that council have an understanding as to why 10 shipping containers would be required. And PDAC indicated that they would accept both planting and or fencing as adequate outdoor storage screening. In terms of planning, the county planning has indicated that the township needs to be satisfied that the proposal conform with the County of Wellington official plan. For MPG, we provided a number of questions related to the outdoor storage area, lot coverage, and landscape open space to determine zoning compliance. We also require for more analysis to justify the cumulative scale of the commercial uses and outdoor storage use on the site to be considered small scale by the county OP. The township building department indicated a building permit application would be required if the future storage building is constructed. And the other consultants indicated they have no outstanding concerns. For next steps, the application is currently under review. We have provided comments to the applicant, and my understanding that the applicant will respond to the comments and make a resubmission. And a future recommendation report will be presented to council in the future. And that's the end of my presentation. I'll be happy to address any comments and questions. Thank you.
Right, thank you. I'll now give an opportunity to members of the gallery to ask questions. I would suggest you just grab a seat unless the question goes to yourself. Question up to the microphone. State your name and address, please. Is there anybody online that has any questions?
If there are any members of the public online who would like to ask a question or make a comment on the application, if you can please use the raise your hand function. It's just located at the bottom of your screen.
And more opportunity to people present. People online have some challenges finding the raise their hand icon, so it's a public meeting. Does council have any clarification questions regarding the application? Oh, you do? Go ahead.
Yeah, was asked at the rationale for the CAN-C cans, what's inside the CAN-C cans that you need, you can't build a building to accommodate what's inside?
Sir, the site plan is proposing an additional structure, which would be a storage building, which if constructed would offset presumably the need for some of the sea cans. What I have learned is that those sea cans are integral to sort of the strategic operation of the company in terms of moving materials to and from sites that they're working on. So they're not always on the property, but they come and go based on project needs. I think the service area for the company is, kind of at this point in time, what I describe as regional. So, rather than trundling materials back and forth numerous times, can load up, take the can to the site and work that way.
Questions from members of council? That leads me to a question. When I heard you were proposing a building, and unfortunately, Mr. Rowe can't really base decisions based on a promise. But I felt it was stated that the building would be built and the C-cans would not be utilized. What you're stating now is the C-cans are integral to transporting product or construction tools, I don't know what's in them. So is it your statement that if the building is built, the company would still require the 10 C-cans?
Yeah, I'm not sure that all 10 would be required. And Drew from CSL is here tonight that can maybe help me out with this if I miss something. But as I mentioned, one of the special regs that we're looking at is with respect to the total area of C-can, like if you had a footprint up of all of them, that would be permitted. And on one metric, if they're, the site plan showing 9 right now, not 10, to remain, but the one metric of the zoning bylaw, up to that many, 9 would easily be permitted. It would be under that sort of floor space. That's where we're C-can space cap. But the other metric in the zoning bylaw is 1 can per 0.4 hectares of land area. They don't, that 9 would put them over on that one. So, I don't know, Drew, if you can maybe add to that a little bit.
Yeah, I think historically, if you can imagine, we've been operating out of that property for close to 25 years. At our peak, slightly before COVID, we were operating on 15 job sites. Normal job site for us would have a site trailer and a C-can to store material. And so, as most big contractors do over the years, we accumulated stuff that we didn't necessarily need. And we certainly weren't aware of the C-can rule, having been there for so long. So it was quite a surprise to us. We've since gotten rid of half the C-cans already off that property. I would say, realistically, there's probably only 3 of them right now, or 4 possibly, that have material in them that are required or that we would store in that building if the building was built. Kind of the other metric that we're keeping in mind is there is an existing storage building on the facility. And my dad actually built that building 2 years ago, and I was a kid, out of used construction material, and we think that it's a fairly limited lifespan. So the new storage building is, planning wise, is a combination of replacing the one that's there eventually and consolidating and cleaning up the C-cans. The reality is that we still operate, 10 or 15 job sites in the local area, but they don't all have C-cans. And now that we're aware of the rule, how many are coming and going, but I think that's why we're looking for a little bit of grace on the number of C-cans, because they are, unlike a lot of places where the C-cans get to be out of hand, their main purpose is an actual tool that we take to different sites on a fair basis. So the more C-cans we can have, the better off our daily operation would be. We're definitely flexible.
Sure, I just was concerned that there was a false impression that, whether it just be a misunderstanding on my part, but a false impression that once the building was constructed, that C-cans wouldn't need to be utilized and they would leave, but then it was indicated that.
Yeah, well,
just a second.
yes,
Generally speaking, the council wants to support our business community, and if you can justify goals to support your business and reduce rate, that's advantageous to us. And staff have heard the comments, and so just I'm they'll have a better understanding of the use of the cans and the implications once the building is up. Appreciate your efforts to reduce those numbers. In our world, we give you something, it can very much so spread across the township, and we'll have farms with sea cans everywhere.
Well, and I can tell you that our CEO would like nothing better than to get rid of all the sea cans, because the rest of the company would tend to hoard things in them, and he would rather we just leave it all.
So that was just my concern, that there was understanding, at least on my part, that most of the building up they need, but then clearly as part of your operation, so it's a need.
Some of them are part of our operations, and some of them are just a historical collection of stuff.
So I would encourage you to do your number crunching, figure out how many sea cans you need, and what you can propose to staff. Okay, perfect. Any further comments? Do we get any? Last chance. Okay. We'll now move on to the second application. Thank you very much. Thank you. This public meeting involves an application. Ready? That doesn't work when mine's on, so I'm done chatting all. This public meeting involves an application by Fieldgate Care of Tacoma, official plan and zoning bylaw application, E14 CUL, property location municipally known as 2781-2809 Town Line Road, Township of Pleasant. The purpose and effect of the proposed official plan amendment is to redesignate the subject lands from secondary agricultural to rural employment area and policy area PA7- whatever terms. Facilitate industrial, limited commercial, retail, and gas bar uses. Purpose and effect of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to amend the Township of Pleasant Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 23-2018 as amended to rezone the lands from agricultural to site-specific industrial zones on Part A, and industrial SP special provision, same number on Part B, to permit a retail store and gas bar use. The owner and applicant make the presentation. There's a button on here.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, Coos residents, and all us here with an interest in Townline. I'm Josh Marlowe. I'm one of the development partners. Joining me here tonight are my colleague Peter Mahovlich, a development manager from Fieldgate, and our esteemed team members and consultants. Ed Sajecki will be presenting with me today. His team is here, as well as Will and Vince from GHD, who are our traffic consultants. We're just going to give you a little feel about Fieldgate so you understand who we are. We just go through the traits briefly. So essentially, Fieldgate was established 70 years ago. The visuals will suggest exactly what it does, which it operates numerous assets. It includes low-rise housing, infill, urban housing, general land development, property management, commercial, industrial, construction management, golf courses, and retirement. These assets take Fieldgate across the 401 from London all the way to Ottawa. But we are very excited to finally be in Coos in what many of us feel is one of the most unique and most important sites that we have considered, especially based on the impact on the township, county, and provincial national level in terms of its economic impact. Rarely do we have the potential of activating a site, an economic driver along Canada's busiest corridor, and an economic lifeline to the gateway within a township on a significant regional road. And it is very rare to say the least. With all that being said, I will turn it over to Ed Sajecki from Sajecki Planning to run through the proposal that we have for you today. And then we will be available and pleased to answer any questions that you guys may have.
Thank you very much, and we're very pleased to be here with Mr. Mayor, members of council, and the audience. Could we go to the next slide? You know, this slide, I think, really illustrates what Joshua was just speaking about. Located on the north side of Highway 401, I mean, it occupies a very prominent location on Canada's busiest highway. The site in many ways is an orphan property, and I know when I've gone by it, you just kind of look at it and go, that's just crying out for some employment uses, which would be similar to what's across the municipal boundary in Cambridge, where you can see the employment uses both on the north and south sides of Highway 401. And then this site is about 34 hectares, which for me, I'm easier in acres. It's a little over 80 acres in site. And as Josh pointed out, a very prominent location and a great opportunity, for the municipality in terms of employment. And the next slide. This shows the nearby uses and amenities in the areas, which is really very amenity rich. Now, most of those amenities are located in Hesper, immediately across Town Line Road, and directly to the east is the Pushledge Golf Club, and then lands adjacent to Highway 401 include several retail plazas, shops and restaurants, gas station, hotels, commercial industrial buildings, recreational uses, and warehouses. Go to the next slide. Maybe one more. The proposed development supports provincial, county, and township objectives related to economic development, employment growth, and efficient use of lands adjacent to major transportation infrastructure. The provincial planning statement is a critical planning document that really provides a framework for planning Ontario. And we believe that employment uses at this location really checks the boxes of the provincial planning statement. Go to the next slide. Also, with regard to the County Wellington official plan, there's a lot here that's spoken about in terms of long-term economic development. This is a strategic site for investment, again located near a major transportation corridor, and it really does help support the development of a complete community, because a lot of jobs would be available on this site, which would round out the nearby residential. If we could just have the next slide. And in terms of the in terms of the township's zoning bylaw, as was mentioned earlier, the site is currently zoned agricultural. We have the next slide. And there's just a great opportunity here. The proposal does include prestige industrial development, as has been mentioned earlier. The proximity to transportation is great. I did want to point out that the Pushledge by Design employment land study, which did not include this property, but it does set out the criteria for major nodes of employment. Proximity to Highway 401 corridor, a deep lot with relatively flat topography, no significant natural heritage constraints, and the ability to provide generous setbacks and buffers to ensure compatibility with nearby uses. So again, it really ticks those boxes. The next slide. So the planning instruments have been written in a way to accommodate two potential development schemes, as the mayor noted in his introductory comments. The first, site plan A, and includes 3 industrial buildings and 3 multi-tenant industrial buildings, as well as a large format retail store and gas bar. We can have the next slide. The second scheme, which is referred to as site plan B, it includes 5 standalone industrial buildings and 3 multi-tenant industrial buildings. So this is being written in a way that allows clearly for employment uses, but there's still some discussion going on about who the major tenant would be. And so with what we're suggesting is the bylaw being written in such a way to provide that flexibility. Can I just go to the next slide? So the draft zoning bylaw amendment proposes to rezone the site from agricultural to industrial to allow for the uses that I just described. I think it would be helpful here just to give an illustration of the potential concepts for what the look of prestige industrial buildings would be. Can I have the next slide? So here are some examples of large format, large bay formats, and small bay format, and then kind of a middle bay. I think you would agree that what Fieldgate Properties has in mind has a nice architectural look to it, and will be very, very compatible with the kind of prestige uses that you would be looking for. I just want to conclude my comments and saying that there are a lot of technical backup studies that have been done, and that they've been submitted to the township and to the county of Wellington, and we've been in discussions with with your planning advisors on this. I guess if there's one last comment that I can leave with you is, this project is about creating jobs, strengthening the township's tax base, and establishing a high quality employment gateway that we believe will contribute to Puslinch's economy for generations to come. I think at that point, unless Joshua wants to say something to sum up, I'm going to conclude my comments and we'll take any questions.
I'm good. We'll take any questions and happy to hear from council and the mayor and staff.
Shut that mic off, please.
Just pass the microphone down here.
Good evening. So we're here today for the public meeting for the zoning bylaw amendment application and official plan amendment application for 2781 and 2809 Townline Road. As part of my presentation, I'll walk through the development process, provide an overview of the location and the relevant policy framework. I'll provide a summary of the proposal, the requested zoning amendment, and the requested official plan amendment before summarizing the comments that the township consultant, the external agency, and the public have provided today. Lastly, I'll go over next step for the development process and question and comments. In terms of the development process, a zoning bylaw amendment application has been submitted to the township. At the same time, an official plan amendment has been submitted to the county. Both of these applications are under review. We are today at the public meeting to provide an overview of the application to the public and council. A future recommendation report will be presented to the township council, and the county would make a decision on the official plan amendment. As for the location of the site, as the applicant has indicated, the subject lands are located along Townline Road, in the city of Cambridge to the west, Ellis Road to the north, the golf club to the east, and Highway 401 to the south. In terms of policy framework, the lands are designated secondary agricultural in the County of Wellington official plan and are zoned agricultural in the Puslinch zoning bylaw. In terms of the development concept, the applicant is contemplating 2 different concepts, which has been explained by the applicant. Concept A would include 6 industrial buildings in total, 1 big box retail store, and a gas bar. All of the industrial buildings are proposed to be serviced by on-site private services. The retail store and gas bar are proposed to be connected to municipal servicing from the city of Cambridge. For concept B, in total, 8 industrial buildings are proposed, and all of them are proposed to be on-site private services. The applicant has requested an official plan amendment to redesignate the subject lands from secondary agricultural to rural employment area and policy area PA 7-X to permit a retail store, a gas bar, retail commercial and service commercial uses normally found in urban centers, prohibit class 3 industrial uses, medical marijuana production facility, and sawmill uses. The policy area PA 7-X would also require the owner to provide satisfactory land use compatibility, site servicing, geotechnical, hydrogeological, stormwater management, agricultural, environmental, and traffic assessment prior to development. For the zoning bylaw amendment application, the applicant is requesting to rezone the southern portion of the site to an industrial site specific XX to permit all uses in the industrial zone with some exceptions, to permit a retail store with a maximum GFA of 17,005 per square meter, to permit a gas bar, to introduce site specific definition for maximum GFA, as well as to introduce additional building and structure setback based on the land use compatibility study. At the same time, the applicant is also proposing to rezone the northern portion of the site to an industrial site-specific XX to permit all uses in the industrial zone with some exceptions, and also to introduce additional building and structure setback based on the land use compatibility study. The diagram on the slide show the hatch areas, which is where the applicant is proposing that no building or structure would be prohibited, would be permitted based on land use compatibility study. In terms of comments that we have received to date, PDAC provided comments that the committee in general support the application and the job creation, subject to meeting all of the necessary application requirements. The committee support the use of on-site private services, that the proponent should work to refine a proposal to ensure that it conforms with Class A and Class 2 definitions. And PDAC requests that the noise impact to be worked out, a wellhead protection protocol be provided, and a cumulative water taking study be provided. In terms of planning, MPG has provided technical comments for a number of studies. We also require an update on the proposed municipal servicing and how the proposed development would be considered dry industrial uses. We also require more justification to support the proposed commercial uses and scale to be consistent with the PPS and conform with the county OP. For engineering, the township consultant provided a number of technical comments and also required for an update of the applicant discussion with the city of Cambridge regarding potential connection to their municipal servicing. In terms of ecology, NRSI indicated they have no outstanding concern and technical comments could be deferred to the site plan stage. In terms of traffic, Savini consultant also provided a number of technical comments for the applicant to address related to trip generation, trip distributions, as well as the internal layout of the site. Source water protection has no outstanding concern. Other comments could be deferred to future application. For hydrogeology, the township's consultant indicated that support for the applications is contingent upon confirmation of adequate water and wastewater servicing plans for the proposed development. Some of the study may be deferred to the site plan stage. For noise, Acoustic Canada provided a number of technical comments related to ambient sound assessment and noise mitigation measure during construction. And on the next slide, the city of Cambridge has been circulated, but we have not received any comment to date. And the other external agency, the GSEA, and the other township department have no comments for the application. In terms of public comments, we have received one public comment to date for the zoning bylaw amendment application, expressing concern related to impacts on surrounding uses and the surrounding wetlands. We have received 3 public comments for the official plan amendment application. One comment request for information on potential noise impact to the surrounding residential area, and request for and clarify what study have been completed to date to assess the impact from construction of the proposed development. The second comment indicates support for the lands to be rezoned to its highest and best use, support of residential zoning and provision of jobs and economic growth. And the third comment for the OPA indicates support for the development and the potential to create jobs and additional retail and commercial opportunities. In terms of next steps, we have provided comments to the applicant, and the applicant has the opportunity to respond, make revisions in another resubmissions, and future recommendation report will be provided to council. This is the end of my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
All right, this is the public's opportunity to any comments? Barclay, come on up to the microphone. State your name and address, please.
Barclay Knapp, 4402 concession 11. Is that 11? Good evening, everyone. I want to start by saying Propositions by Design. It was a very good process. I've seen a lot of consultants being used in this county and the response, and I think got a very good consultant. The county and as well as staff did a very good job of working with it and finding future employment lands, whether it's commercial or industrial. I know with OPA 131, waiting for provincial approval on that and adding it to the county official plan. With this application, I'm just a little conflicted here, and I'd like to encourage council to encourage the applicant to be a part of the lands identified by Propositions by Design, because that's what we did the process for finding future employment lands. With the proposals to develop commercial industrial sites outside of lands identified by Propositions by Design, it feels like Propositions could potentially be carved up. We had a meeting last week, I think, for an MZO as well, to meet the fate of different townships, certain townships in Vaughan, Markham, Scarborough, Toronto, Etobicoke, Waterloo, and others. This is a great piece of fertile, well-drained, flat farmland, great for combines. And farmland, as you know, is a limited supply in Ontario. I'm not against development. I just think with the work that we've done with Propositions by Design, this would be a great place, a great fit. Thank you.
Members in attendance wish to speak?
If there are any attendees online that would like to make a comment or ask a question with respect to the application, if you can please use the raise your hand function, you'll find it located at the bottom of your screen.
Council, questions?
Thank you. I had just 2 quick questions. The first question is in regards to the proposal of connecting to Cambridge servicing. Sorry, I don't exactly know who to direct this question to, but I'm just wondering if the there have been discussions with Cambridge about doing so and their willingness to allow that to happen.
Should I just?
Yeah, or no, we better turn it off. There's people online, I don't know how they hear.
We have had some initial discussions with Cambridge. The conversations are ongoing. It is not 100% necessary for us to continue based on, depending on the plan, but we have had initial conversations with them. And we will continue to have those conversations.
The second question I have is in regards to traffic. And I'm just, maybe more from my own personal knowledge, I'm just wondering if you can provide like the methodology for determining the traffic impacts without knowing for sure which of the site plans you're going to proceed with, and ultimately what that tenant might be in the retail space. I would imagine something like a Costco would have significantly different traffic impacts than you know, a home hardware or something like that. So I'm just curious how that gets evaluated.
Thank you for your great question. I'm going to pass it to our esteemed traffic consultant who can give you more about the methodology. But here's Will.
Thank you. Good evening. So the traffic impact study looked at the two scenarios, the two options, the two concept plans. So we did run a capacity analysis into the future horizon years for both the fully industrial site as well as the option with the retail in the southern half of the property. And the methodology that we used was to use the standard traffic or trip rates from the Institute of Transportation Engineering. These were run through with the scope of work in terms of reference that we ran by the municipality, different reviewing agencies at the onset of the project. There is some comments that we received back from the peer reviewer from Cushman's regarding the trip generation. I think mostly concerning that it might be too conservative and that's overly estimated the volume of traffic that may come to the site. So that's something that we're definitely working through with responding to those comments. We're still waiting for comments back from the Ministry of Transportation and from the region as well. So once we have all of those, we'll be looking at addressing them in a further resubmission. But I believe to answer the second part of your question with respect to the retail, while we don't know who the tenant is going to be at this time, we did look at a variety of different retail uses, and we looked at sort of averaging them out in terms of the trip rates that are proposed, depending on the big box versus discount stores, etc. So there's several different land use codes that we would use for trip rates, and we kind of average them out based on the GFA.
Thanks. I just have a couple brief questions as well. Let me just piggyback on Councillor Goyta's first question. I'm just curious from the Fieldgate group of companies. You know, the site's unique in the township in the sense of on-site private services probably being required in one form or another unless an alternative arrangement can be made. Can you maybe just speak to, has Fieldgate in any of your other development activities or site management dealt with on-site private services in the past?
I'm a development partner, not specifically with Fieldgate, so I can't answer that directly. I can get you guys that answer, but I'm optimistic that in their 70 years, they would have dealt with it. And we are using, just for comfort, the same engineer that recently had an on-site servicing completed in Pusillage, that was completed by Cooper Construction just down the road. So the consultants that we are hiring are well-versed with these requirements and standards for on-site requirements and have worked within the County of Wellington as well as the Township of Pusillage.
Okay, thanks. And I think it's just something from a municipal perspective, from certainly my perspective, having a degree of comfort that they're, that would have or potentially have experience with on-site services would be certainly considered an asset when working with chosen contractors. So I'll leave it at that. Just my last two comments, is certainly, I think one thing I am somewhat challenged or conflicted with from this standpoint is, our township's a rural township, and I think one of the really strong self-factors of why people want to live in this township is it does have a very strong rural character in between, four large urban regions on all four corners of the township. So I think there is a degree at a personal level, the loss of 80 acres of farmland that, and I think as Barclay noted, to a degree, never comes back type of thing. So I'm not sure, there's probably a comment you can't make to it, but I think that, from my standpoint, is always an apprehension around development. So I'll leave it at that. I think the last one, just there was a note around no comments having been received to date from Cambridge or the region of Waterloo, and maybe that's something, and I'm not sure if staff can comment on this, but just due to the geographical proximity to the region of Waterloo, I'd certainly would be very welcoming of their comments, given the impacts, and maybe I misunderstood the comments, that no comments had been received yet. I'm hoping that they're forthcoming, but I'm not sure if staff presumably can speak to that, or if others.
To Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, my understanding is the city of Cambridge indicated to the county of Wellington that they will be providing comments, but we just don't know at what time. Yeah.
Members in attendance, another opportunity to ask questions. I have a couple of questions. There was one slide that you presented showed the big bay, medium bay, small bay. I don't know if staff can pull it up. The question would be to staff: do we have any legislative means to ensure that that design criteria would be implemented? My concern is, we can show fancy pictures and nice buildings, and we have no means to ensure that you build that.
It's okay.
To the mayor, we anticipate if the application is recommended for approval, we probably would recommend to the county to include in the OPA policy with respect to high quality design for the future buildings. And at the times, that's the timing of the site plan application, we would also require for an urban design brief to demonstrate that the proposed development comply with the township design guidelines that we do have. That's the way that we could ensure that high quality design is proposed.
Yeah, I just hate presenting things to the public, and if it's not a possibility, then it gives a false impression. I have a question about the Cambridge services. It's probably twofold. It is twofold, not probably. So plan B, I believe it is, shows the large retail of the gas station. Are you presenting that portion of the project will not go forward unless there's an agreement with municipal services?
The answer is no. We are in discussions with some potential retailers, and their preference is to always have municipal services. We have gotten some feedback. Now it's not confirmed, but it's been kind of told to us that they potentially have more interest, whether it's with municipal services or without. So we will, depending on that interest, depending on the market, we will kind of engineer it accordingly. But it was really based on more their desire than anyone else. And we had some, positive conversations with them, so of course we entertained it. But it could go either way. There's not a confirmation on each side, or either side. It's not necessary.
So building off of that, I think it's wise from your perspective to have engaged those conversations with the city of Cambridge. However, from Puslin's perspective, is there a process or an approval process for that to transpire? So in my mind, can the applicant just go to Cambridge, secure the connections, and then we just, accept it similar to the en-route on 401, they put a pipe in the ground, put in the MTO right away, their lands. And there's definitely municipal services from Cambridge to the en-route that we were unaware of. So was that a similar situation that would transpire here, that the applicant deals with Cambridge? Or would the township not have to be a component of that discussion and approvals? And I would say that question is to my staff.
So yes, the latter, through Mr. Chair, the township would have to be involved in those discussions.
Okay, I think that's all I have. So that's important because if the public feels that you're making agreements with Cambridge for development in our township without engaging the township, that's problematic.
We totally agree. We would want you guys as part of the discussions, and if frankly would be required.
One last opportunity for members and tenants. I declare this public meeting closed. Council will take no action on the proposals tonight. Staff will be reporting at a later date with a recommendation for council's consideration. If you wish to receive further notification of this proposal, please email or call planning@puslinch.ca or by phone at 519-763-1226, extension 4, or contact township staff during regular business hours. Only those persons who leave their names will be provided further notification. If you wish to speak to the proposal when it is brought before council in the future, you must register as a delegation with the municipal clerk prior to the meeting. Thank you everyone for coming tonight.